Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us on today's webinar to learn more about surrogacy in Canada and participation as a surrogate, what it looks like to begin the process, what the process looks like as you are participating, and then, of course, post-surrogacy, what that looks like in terms of return to regular life and support post-birth. As for us, it is often just a really sweet time of reconnecting with intended parents who you have helped become parents, as well as sort of tucking back in as you take care of yourself during a really important recovery time. So we are just going to wait a few moments for people to join us, and we will then get started. If you have any questions, please pop them into this chat here, and I'll just write, here's where questions go. Okay. So let's get started. Again, my name is Leah Swanberg. I am the founder of Canadian Fertility Consultants. I started CFC after having completed 2 surrogacy journeys and working for a surrogacy agency, Canadian Surrogacy Options, where I learned so much about the process. And what I noticed in learning about the process was that it was primarily focused on the intended parents, the clients who were paying for the service. And what I noticed was the clients paying for the service just wanted their surrogate to be cared for. They wanted her to feel well during the pregnancy. They wanted her to be just well taken care of and supported. And in the model that had been created, it really was about the intended parents and not the surrogate. So with that being said, I set out to start an agency that was surrogate-led. Having been a surrogate and I was leading it, it made sense to coin that phrase. And what that means at CFC and what that means, I think, throughout our industry is that the surrogate leads the process. And that starts at the beginning of the process by accepting a call with one of our intake team or reaching out to one of our intake team to learn more. On that initial call, I encourage you, as someone who we would call surrogate curious, to ask questions. Our goal is that you are 70% talking and we're 30% talking. And if we've done that, we know that we have invited you to participate in the call. We have encouraged you to ask your questions. Surrogacy is such a unique experience that there are lots of questions. And so on that intake, or we call them journey guide calls, we typically talk about a few key things. The first one is we learn about you. Where do you live? Are you in Canada? Are you a mom? Are you not a mom? We want to know what led you to surrogacy or led you to wanting to learn more about it. We talk about pregnancy health history. We talk about your job and your spouse or partner, if you have one. We talk about how we can help you build your surrogate profile to ensure that intended parents who view your surrogate profile, should you move forward, understand fully who you are as a person, your expectations around reimbursements of expenses, as well as your family setup. Every surrogate is a unique person in our program. And as such, we want to ensure that we know many different things. What type of intended parents you want to work with? Are you interested in working with a same-sex male couple, a heterosexual couple, a single mom, if you might be a single mom and want to sort of bond over that lived and shared experience? So we talk about that. We get down on paper how your pregnancies have gone. we want to make sure that you've looked at every aspect of the journey and what you would need in order to participate. So, whether that is you have a job and you have questions about what if I go off work? How will I cover my expenses? And so, we share that intended parents cover the difference between employment insurance and your wages. And if you're not employed somewhere that employment insurance happens, your full wages will be reimbursed to you. We want to know about your kids and what childcare looks like for you in your house. If you were on bed rest or work cessation, or a complication arose in the pregnancy and you needed some additional help, it is our job, and any agency that you talk to, it is their job, our job, to really find out how we can meet your needs. And by doing that, we ensure that intended parents have all that information about how we will require them to fund the needs for you to rest, should there be bed rest or pregnancy complication. We're going to talk about your values around termination. Now, when we think about surrogacy, I know for myself, I was like, these people have dreamed to have a baby for 20 years, 10 years. This is just the journey of their lifetime. How could they terminate a pregnancy? I can't imagine. And I will tell you, with 20 years experience, no intended parent goes into this ever imagining or wanting to terminate a pregnancy. And as we know, catastrophe can happen. A complication with the pregnancy can leave a surrogate's life, a baby's life, in harm's way. And so, really getting clear, I say the agreement with yourself and the agreement then made with intended parents around termination. So, what are your values? What are your beliefs around terminating a pregnancy for a complication? Are you up for the intended parents to make that decision around their child's health? What would that look like? And understand there is no right or wrong answer there. There are intended parents for every surrogate, and we don't limit the number of intended parents we take, which some smaller agencies have to do because they have 2 staff or 1 staff or 3 staff. We have 30 staff. And so for us, having enough intended parents for every surrogate's unique needs, wants, desires to be met through that match is so important. And so if you have unique beliefs around terminating a pregnancy, if you have religious values that really set you at no termination, we have intended parents that have the same set value of no interest in terminating. And for us, that pairing is paramount, that intentional matching, which can only happen when there are enough intended parents in a program to meet every single person where they are. And so our goal is that we always have far more intended parents than surrogates. As we know, and as you're moving through this process, hopefully, it sometimes takes a surrogate seeing 2, 3, 5, 10 profiles of intended parents to decide on intended parents. And so for us, what sets us really apart is that we have at any given time 50, 75, 100 intended parents. Some of those are new to our program. Some of those are intended parents who have had a surrogate walk away. And our belief around that is that if we are a surrogate-led program, we allow the surrogate to lead, whether she stays or not. And so while it's difficult and sad for the intended parents, honoring birthing people, honoring surrogates is the most important part. And so to stand there, we can't have one foot on the boat and one on the shore. So we have many intended parents who have, suffered losses, who have had surrogates walk away, who have had unsuccessful transfers. And those intended parents are, of course, a priority to us. And so often surrogates coming into our program will come in through Instagram because they've seen, John and Jenny on our Instagram. in a short, small, cute video and comes in saying, I would really like to work with those people. So if you are wanting to just sort of look at people and see who it is that may match this criteria that I'm talking about, check out our Instagram. It's just cfc.families. As you are putting your profile together, so we've talked about where you work and the money you make to make sure we have it right. Talked about childcare if bed rest occurs or if you're traveling for the embryo transfer or screening appointment. Talking about whether or not you have a partner and getting really clear on how we will how we will propose you to intended parents as a single surrogate, as a married surrogate. We talked about values around termination. And then I think something that's really important, maybe the most important aside from termination view, is type of contact. For some intended parents, they are looking for very close contact with a surrogate, or sorry, intended parents and surrogates are looking for very close contact with each other. And sometimes a surrogate may come to us and say, I'm a very busy mom of 5. I don't have time for relationships in my life. I am becoming a surrogate to heal birth trauma, to have an intentional pregnancy as my pregnancies were accidental, whatever that reason is. And for that reason, I'm not looking for a real deep connected relationship. That's important information for us to have so that we can, again, find intended parents that share that sort of belief system. And listen, you never know. You may become close friends and you may not. But for us to know so that we can match you intentionally based on the understanding that we have in so many intended parents because of our large staff, because of our ability to take on lots of clients, knowing that to be surrogate led, we have to allow the surrogate to choose who she's working with, which means having a number of people for her to choose, or for the surrogate to choose from. Now, once we have your profile completed and we've gone through all of that information with you, we are going to ask you to complete a criminal record check. And we do that because we just want to make sure that there isn't a speeding ticket that you forgot about, that you're going to have to go to court about, that may impact your journey, that may, have you in jail for a weekend and unable to go to your screening appointment. We don't know. It hasn't happened. And it's just really a good practice for us. We also want to make sure that anyone entering into our program has not had any abuse against children. We do a vulnerable sector check. We really want to ensure that anyone entering into our program is in a place in their life that surrogacy would make sense for them. From there, the surrogate has an appointment with our counselor to talk about readiness. Is now a good time for them to do this? Have they thought about all of the things that they maybe should be thinking about? We leave that to a counselor to talk about, because for us, we're just so excited you want to be in our program. And this next layer is just so important for us to ensure that you've talked about all the things that are important for you to talk about. From there, we have your profile ready. Intended parents, we send it to intended parents that tick all your boxes. We then have a number of intended parents who will express interest in your profile, and your case specialist, journey guide, will introduce you to the next person on your team. We have teams for everything and teams for everyone. So you will be introduced to a coordinator, and that person will be your go-to throughout the journey and will support you throughout. And between your coordinator and that journey guide who filled out all of your paperwork with you, they will help you decide. And it is the hardest part. There are so many intended parents who have struggled for so long, whether it is through failed adoptions, whether it is with infertility, whether it is through unsuccessful transfers. So as surrogates or potential surrogates begin to review profiles, it can really be an emotional moment of, who do I really want to help? like, I want to help everyone, but I need to narrow it down. So really leaning into your coordinator, really leaning into your journey guide. Um, and chances are both of them or one of them has been a surrogate before and will be able to share their lived experience of how they chose. And listen, I've had people flip a coin with me on a phone call because there's two people they just love and they want to allow fate, the universe, whatever, to choose for them. And so we are always very excited to help provide context and more information for someone to choose. Okay, Haley, welcome to the webinar. So Haley had a question, and I'm a 30-year-old woman who has never given birth but does not want children of her own. I've tried being a surrogate, but many will not take me as they don't want to take on an unknown risk. This is a great question, Haley, and as a feminist who was called out on being a feminist by a potential surrogate who hadn't had children and wasn't interested in children, I was able to begin an unlearning process that has been so wonderful. And in that, we began an unlearning process, I think, with industry partners across the clinical piece, across the legal piece. And what we sort of all determined, and, this isn't just us, but, what agencies I think have determined is, yes, there are many women or many people who have not had children, who want to become a surrogate, who don't want children of their own. And the process now for that that we've established is that we have one fertility clinic that will work with surrogates who don't have children. And the criteria around that is a little different. They've asked us to have the surrogate or potential surrogate complete an additional layer of screening with a counselor to just talk more about implications around a first pregnancy and what that looks like. We have the surrogate often speak to a lawyer around the rights of the surrogate at the time of birth, because it is different than adoption in that once the baby is born, it is relinquished to the parents. And so just really having a bit more of an understanding around that legal piece. And then the clinic has structured some criteria around age, use of medication, employment history. So really looking at it a little bit differently, that this person isn't on any medication that would impact them becoming pregnant, that this person has, a stable life and a job and all these other things going on, and that surrogacy could add to that. And so, Haley, we would love to connect with you and share more about that process. We have had surrogates come through our program that have not had children, and it has been just so wonderful to experience this with them. As we move to, Haley, did that answer your question? I should ask if you have any other questions on that. Let's just give Haley a moment to answer if that did. Perfect. Thank you. And yes, please send us a note. You could send me a note, Leah, at fertilityconsultants.ca. Oh, there we go. It's in the chat. Perfect. So as you are moving through the process, you've selected intended parents. It's really interesting for us to sort of begin to see the relationship unfold with the intended parents. And you as a surrogate will guide that in terms of, what does communication look like for you? Is it text? Is it email? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? And our job is to coach our intended parents on how they can build an insulated relationship with you that is based on connection, commitment, this going on this journey together, while we take care of all of the details, the clinic piece, traveling to their clinic, making sure that the expenses are covered. And again, because we have such a large team, you will have someone who will book your travel if you're going to a clinic outside of your community. We will have someone book your hotel, your clinic appointment. Like all of those pieces will be taken care of by our team. I just have an Instagram question. Just one sec. I'm just trying to decipher. Okay. What I'd like to sort of talk about, this question is about how do we know that the intended parents we work with are safe people, which is a great question. Intended parents that we work with go through a psychological assessment with their fertility clinic. We know that they are drug and disease free based on their screening at the fertility clinic. Many of our intended parents have had, unfortunately, failed adoptions, so they have that background check already in hand. And intended parents that we work with are absolutely comfortable with us asking them to do anything that a surrogate would need done in order for them to feel more comfortable moving forward. So thank you for that question. If you have any follow-up question about that, please, can you plug that in for me, hon? Please do reach out. As my computer's going to die, for those of you that are on here and moms, the struggle is real with summer break and kids home and working. So just ignore the background noise. So as you confirm your match with the intended parents and we begin, sort of moving the pieces, introducing you to the lawyer who will take care of all of your contractual needs. And when I talk about contractual needs, what's really important and lovely in Canada is that surrogates have a lawyer who is for them, for their needs. It is to ensure that any legal question you have would be answered. And our commitment to surrogates in our program is that we work with lawyers who let us know, or they have identified themselves as lawyers who will continue to work with the surrogate throughout the journey. And so what that means is, as you are pregnant, as something may come up, you may be moving out of the province, you may go through a separation, you may get married, this lawyer will update and locate the other lawyer on any changes to the contract, and going into the contract, ensuring that, those items that we talked about that were important in the beginning, the lost wages, the termination values, the bed rest piece, that all of that is a piece of that contract. And that is something you'll speak to your lawyer about to ensure that it is all covered there. And we find that with the intended parents having a great lawyer, surrogates having a lawyer that really understands surrogacy, and we want you to choose who that lawyer is. And if you don't have a preference, we'll refer you into one that does a great job for our clients. The contract gets signed, the embryo transfer process is set up. And I think I missed a step, which was the medical screening. You'll travel to their fertility clinic and have a full workup, learn more about your uterine health and what surrogacy looks like with IVF. So in our program, we work with gestational surrogates. So this child you'll carry is not genetically related to you. It is either the intended mother's and her partners, or her partners and an egg donor, or an egg and a sperm donor, or for two men, an egg donor and embryos created with both of their sperm. There are many combinations there that we have seen over the years. And so what we do know is that this child will not be related to you. What we also know is that a deep bond occurs. And one of the biggest myths on the internet is that, a surrogate doesn't get attached to the baby. I don't think it's possible not to get attached to a baby that is growing inside of you. Listen, I get attached to a baby that I see at my friend's kid's birthday party and there's a baby there and I'm just, like, oh my gosh, this baby. And so it is natural for this attachment to occur because we are doing something so huge and this baby is growing inside of us. And how do we then support ourselves to detach when the journey's over? And for some people, that's very easy. And for others, there's more support required. And we uh, have a plan for that. Your coordinator, who is your go to, counseling, which is covered throughout the entire journey, weekly, bi weekly, monthly, whatever you need, that is there, specific to your surrogate journey, especially with that disconnection post birth. Whether it is, in my case, the 5 minutes that the intended parents went to fuss with their baby in the little bassinet before they looked back at me. Those 5 minutes felt like 50 hours. And they looked back and all melted away. And in another journey I had, it was a disconnected relationship post-birth. It just naturally sort of dissolved to the wayside. And I didn't have the support or even the language to bring myself forward or ask for what I needed in the relationship. And so for us, it's so important that surrogates are in these relationships with intended parents, and more importantly, in this relationship with themselves around their needs during a pregnancy and their needs around the relationship with intended parents and their need for financial reimbursement for childcare and lost wages and whatever other pregnancy related expenses they have. And so as people go through the journey, um, we are going to encourage them as surrogates to let us know, what do you need? We want to show up for you. And then moving that forward to the end of the journey. What do you need? What did you need? What can we do to support in this really sort of most important time in that fourth trimester where there is some disconnection as you tuck back in with your family, which for many surrogates surprisingly is tough. This has been their entire life for a year. And, it's often expressed like, I put everything off for this year. Like I just didn't address my taxes. I just didn't deal with anything because I just wanted to like revel in this pregnancy, which I love. And I know even for myself, it was a bit jarring when it was like, okay, this is over. Now what? And I think it's why 25% of surrogates tend to come back for a second or third or fourth journey, because it's like, what's next? And so these journeys are so special and so unique, and it is easy to just get carried away. And so that reintegration piece, like reintegrating into our families, reintegrating into our lives before surrogacy, that for us is just so important. And again, having people, having, our counselor available, having your coordinator, having a member of our finance team help you put together, your final receipts and expenses is just so important. And so as we do that with you, it is just our pleasure. And when we talk about that, we really want you to view it as, the dessert at a restaurant is what you remember, right? Like if the dessert is delicious and the food wasn't, it's kind of like the last thing I ate was delicious. And so for us, we want to make something delicious for you in this journey. We want to have intended parents leave this journey with a child, and for you to leave this journey having been part of just an amazing community, whether it's online with our 700 surrogates in our private Facebook group, whether it is attending retreats through Sacred Surrogacy. Aaliyah, if you wouldn't mind popping Sacred Surrogacy's website or Instagram handle into the chat. It's really a unique part of CFC, we have partnered with Sacred Surrogacy, and we offer retreats and subscription boxes and just beautiful ways of being pregnant, beautiful ways of connecting as a surrogate with yourself and others. And so as you leave the journey, for us, it's so important that, maybe community was important to you, and it's why you joined, because you wanted to have this lived shared experience that is so unique. Maybe it was because you did want to relive a pregnancy that maybe wasn't what you wanted to experience. Maybe you're an ally to the LGBTQ community, and caring for queer folks is what you were inspired to do. And maybe you don't know your why, and the why is less important to us than the how and the who and the what and the where. And, your why is your story to tell if and when you feel safe to share it, or you're comfortable sharing it, or, if you're a private person and you don't want to share it, that's cool too. But we are here to support you through this journey. And we cannot wait to meet you and to connect and to learn more about you. So I wanted to just open up to any questions that people may have as we're finishing the webinar up. Okay. I have one question in Instagram to finish it up, and it is, if I'm interested in learning more, who would I connect with? So my email is here. You can email me here, and I will introduce you to Heather. I will introduce you to Megan, or I will introduce you to Alana, all in our journey guide team. And they would love to share more about surrogacy with you. So thank you so much for even considering this amazing gift. It really is just such an amazing experience. It has changed and shaped who I am as a person. And I know for many of our surrogates, they have had the same lived experience. And if you are curious or would like to talk to those who are participating in surrogacy, please do let us know. I would love to introduce you to surrogates in community, and likely in your community if you wanted to meet up. We have surrogates across Canada in every province and territory who would love to connect with you. Thank you so much, and I look forward to speaking with you again on another webinar.